Hey book nerds, welcome to my channel. So I basically never reread books, which is a shame really, because while I have many books on my TBR that I haven't read, I have read some really enjoyable books, and it seems a shame that I just never read them again. There are also a fair amount of books that I've read maybe 5-6 years ago now that I really loved at the time, and now that I'm a more prolific reader, I don't know if I'll still feel the same about those books. So I was really excited to hear about Rereadathon, which is what this video is going to be. Rereadathon is a readathon that's running from the 10th of March to the 16th of March. It has a whole bunch of hosts, so I'm just going to link the Twitter down below because there are too many hosts to link. But that's got all the information on it. It's got all the hosts details and stuff like that, and the challenge details as well. But essentially the entire theme of the readathon is just to reread books that you've already read. So I thought that would be quite a nice thing to do in March. So there are 7 challenges in total. The first challenge is to give a book a second chance, and for this I've chosen Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. This book is beloved by so many people, and I really want to say I did not hate this book. I believe I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, and the main reason for that was that the premise was different than what I was expecting. So this is a book about a school where all the students are kids who have travelled to different magical worlds. So kind of like Narnia in terms of that's how the world system works. So there are portals and you go through them to the other worlds, but there are hundreds and hundreds of different worlds, and they're kind of types of worlds, but they're all vastly different, and the school is designed to help kids adjust back to their normal lives after they return from these magical worlds. That's like the basic premise, and that's the premise I was told. In actuality, it's more of a murder mystery story, and I'm not going to say anything more because I don't want to spoil it, but basically the whole magical worlds thing kind of takes a back step, a back seat rather, kind of takes a back seat to the murder mystery plot. I really love murder mysteries, so you'd think that I would really love this, but I didn't. I think it might be because it wasn't what I was expecting, so I really want to reread this because people are still ranting about this book and about how great it was. And I would like to give it a second chance to see if, now that I know what it's actually like, I might enjoy it more for what it is as opposed to for what I thought it was. But yeah, I'm really excited to reread this. This is also fulfilling challenge number 7, which is to reread a popular book. So this is my popular book. The second challenge is to reread a recent favourite of yours. This is the challenge I'm kind of skipping because I didn't want to reread a book that I've read within the last year or so, mainly because there are only 2 books I would have liked to have reread out of the last year or so, and I've already reread them both. And any older than that, it didn't really feel like it was in the spirit of recent favourite, so I'm just not doing this challenge basically. But if you have a different definition of recent, you could also use what I'm reading for the next challenge, which is to reread an old favourite. So when I first saw this, I assumed it meant like from your childhood, but then there's another one which is to reread a childhood favourite. So I've picked Invisible Monsters by Palahniuk. This I read in the first year of uni, so it would have been about 6 years ago now. Basically, it's about a model who has her face ruined in a car accident. And it's not really about that, but I A, don't really remember what it is about, and B, there's so much going on in it in terms of themes and statements about the world that even at the time I didn't really know how to explain what it's actually about. It's a very brutal but beautiful book. I loved it at the time. It was unlike anything I'd ever read. And it's also, I've got the remix edition, so it's not told in order, so it's kind of like at the end of each chapter it tells you which page to go to, like a choose your own adventure but without any choices. But there's also hidden bits within that where if you just flick through the physical book, which I borrowed from the library, so I don't have with me now. Unfortunately, I only have the ebook, which kind of ruins the point of it. But if you flick through the physical book, it's got sections that you don't come across if you're just reading it through. So there's like secret parts of the story and stuff like that. I really want to reread this purely because I don't really remember what it's about. I just remember loving it, and I just love to experience it again and see if it's still a 5-star read for me, because I've recommended it to quite a few people and I feel like I should reread it before I continue to do that. Next challenge is to reread a game-changing book. This was tough for me, but I have picked Thirtynothing by Jewell. This may surprise you if you watched my content before, because I am not a contemporary reader and I am not a romance reader. This is an adult contemporary romance, and it's about these two friends, Dig, and I think her name's Natalie. I forget the name of the female character. When they were in secondary school together, Dig got a girlfriend called Delilah, and she basically ruined Dig's and Natalie's friendship because Natalie was in love with him and he didn't know, and then he got a girlfriend, and then she got a boyfriend, I believe, when she was at university, and then Dig was in love with her, but then she was in a relationship, and now they're both adults, they're both turning 30. And they're still really good friends, but there's nothing romantic going on there. And then they both get back together with these people that kind of ruin their friendship. And it's basically about them getting together, essentially. I don't think that's a spoiler to say that it's a romance about those two characters. But yeah, this was a game-changing book for me because it was the first adult book I ever read. I think I got it when I was about 14 from a charity shop. And it kind of changed the way I read books. I read a fair few of Jewell's books when I was around that age, and I loved pretty much all of them. They're a bit weird in parts, and I don't think they hold up today with my romantic standards. There's a lot of things that I find problematic now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to reading this because the story is stuck with me quite well because it was the first adult book I ever read, and it was unlike anything else I'd ever read. And I'd be interested to see what I think of it now as an adult. Final two challenges I am combining for one book, and they are to reread a childhood favourite and to reread a book that you think is underrated, and I've picked Wolf Brother by Michelle Paver for both of these. This was my favourite book for the longest time. This is part of the Chronicles of Ancient Darkness series. I think there's like 7 of them, and it's kind of set in, I'm gonna say caveman times because my knowledge of history in that time period is awful, but it's that kind of time. And it's also set in a fantasy world, so the main character is a young boy and his dad gets killed by a demon bear right in front of him, and immediately after he finds this wolf cub, and he kind of adopts it and it becomes like his protector. And there's a bunch of fantasy stuff going on, so the main character has abilities that I don't remember that well because the last time I read this I would have been about 10. And I know there's mystical stuff and I'm remembering stuff from later in the series, but I can't remember what actually happens in this first book, so I'm not really going to say anything more about the plot, sorry. But yeah, I love this book purely because of the wolf in it. I love the character. I love the bond between the main character and his friend Wolf. And I really want to reread this because I'm intrigued to see, again, now that I actually read fantasy and stuff, I'd like to remind myself of what the fantasy plot actually was in this and whether I still think it's really good, because at the time I loved it. Yeah, so that is all the books that I am reading for the Rereadathon. I'm very excited because I'm glad that I'm getting the chance to do something that I don't normally do, and a chance to relive some of the books that I've loved previously. Do let me know if you're taking part in the Rereadathon. If you've got a TBR posted down below, I'd love to see it. Let me know what your favourite book to reread is as well, or if there's a book that you really want to reread and you haven't got around to doing it because maybe you're like me and you just never schedule time for rereads. If you like this video, do give me a thumbs up, it helps me out massively. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.